a type B sociopath, or at the very least, a type lowercase a sociopath, right? And, you know, the no violence thing, the no wanting to stab people, that was very clear. My dad was a cop, he worked downtown Toronto, he came back home, he was like, no violence. I see it out there, no violence. And it just took effect. Very simple. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But the other stuff that I didn't have, the idea that, like, I didn't know why I wasn't selling swampland in Florida, or I was working in some sort of boiler room doing shoddy stocks. It was like, why was I liked by my friends and family if I thought I was a sociopath? Why was I doing good things for them? You know, how did I explain that? You know, particularly having a career in film and television where I could hide very easily in there. It wouldn't have been a problem. Well, the way I started to understand it was effective self-interest was grounded in the little bit that I understood in the word symbiosis. So symbiotic relationships are ones, definition-wise, are close and often long-term interactions between different biological species. And the classic one that happens with psychopaths and average people is parasitic. You know, it's the same relationship we have with like bed bugs or fleas or viral meningitis. You know, the one takes advantage of the other, and you either have to escape it, or you die, or you imprison it, or you kill it. You know, the idea that you need to do these things to get away, or the parasite will do you big harm. Now, I wasn't interested in that. But what I was interested in was mutualism, which also worked with symbiotic relationships. The little birds, the plovers, that pick the food out of the alligator's teeth, you know? Don't get eaten. Have a great place to just hang out for a while, and nobody's gonna bother them. The remora fish, the same way. It's like cleaning the belly of a shark and the body of a shark attached. It's like a great place to hang out where nobody's going to attack you. And you get to, you know, you get to have a little bit of protection and some food. It's like, that's the kind of mutualism I imagined that I was doing. If I was going to manipulate somebody, I wanted to leave them with something that they wanted or valued. You know, I was coming out and I wanted the goods and services, you know? If I were a parasite, I wanted to be a minor one, a slow parasite. And it was an attitude that I thought every good drug dealer had. The idea that the real power is in the comeback. You don't want to sell somebody fake drugs or poison drugs and have them never come back. The idea is to constantly get them to come back and give them the thing that they want, and you'll always have the relationship. The comeback, the happily used customer was the repeat one. And somebody that you could get to do things for you. And I had the ledger sheet in my head, and I was going to always come out ahead, but the countless examples throughout my life of being positive outcomes, I did good things for people. I always helped. I left the campsite in better shape than I found it. It was kind of like a Cub Scout thing. And, you know, career promotions, helping them stop smoking, getting them into therapy. A lot of people jobs over the years working in film so that they would work on my film sets eventually. The idea of exchange of value that wasn't money. And it kind of was like a self-help course. I was teaching a self-help course. I was somebody who was trying to get people on board with my kind of how to win friends and influence people into being sociopaths. But lazy sociopaths. Benevolent sociopaths. The qualifier word being the important one. So there you go. And it was the question I had for myself was, okay, great, so you believe this, you acted that way, you did all that, why aren't you rich, why aren't you powerful? If this works, and you're trying to get people to be like this Tony Robbins approach, why didn't it happen? And how are you selling it to people otherwise? And it was like, the main reason is because I was guilty. I felt guilty about it. My whole life, the lexicon that we use for people that are manipulative, and benevolently so, is pretty bad, right? I mean, I love quoting this, but noted social philosopher Courtney Love once said during an interview, she was accused of being manipulative, and she poured a little milk into the coffee she was drinking and stirred it with a spoon and said, the spoon is manipulating the milk into the coffee. What's wrong with that? And it was like, she's crazy, admittedly, but she's also right. It's like, do you need to apologize to your chess pieces for winning with them? And if it's semantically wrong and linguistically kind of wrong out there, that's the problem we've got. I feel like we need to reclaim negative and judgmental words that get used. And think about the words. It's like, and I've heard it a lot over the years, it's like, why do we live with words like manipulate, coerce, betray, exploit, use, dupe, mislead, fabricate, when we can accept people who persuade? convince, advocate, inspire, captivate, incite, impress, impel, prompt, lead. Because what's a good leader if not a person who uses the charisma and their adapted skills to get people behind their vision, the vision that they don't see, that the leader sees, and gets them to set aside their self-interest for a while in the hopes of hopefully doing something good for everyone. I mean, if you do it right, then everybody should win. And since the word sociopath has essentially been cast aside by science, I think it should be picked up. I think it should be reupholstered and put to good use with caveats and qualifiers, like, I am a high-functioning, non-killing, benevolent, lazy sociopath. And this is how I practice the art of my persuasion and advocacy for my friends, my family, strangers. And it's a way that I assume my place in the community. And it's a way to take responsibility for everybody else and the well-being of fellow citizens. And I entreat all of you, as directly and as clearly as I'm ever going to on this subject, because that's not usually the way I roll about this sort of thing, I think we should all be benevolent, lazy sociopaths. And, you know, those of us that aren't, at least. And those of us that are, I think we should become more shameless and vocal about it and the good that we're doing for the world. Thank you.